What's up, stoners? My name is Gray, and welcome to a brand new video on the Anamara channel. Let's overanalyze that 2004 Flash game, and in this episode, part 2 of the Stone of Anamara. So when you enter the asylum, you enter right here, or actually, can I get back to what view do you start from? Okay, this view right here is kind of precious because you will only see it once in the game, and that is this view over here. So actually, let's not click away from here. I love this dynamic light over here. Look at this. Like, it looks fully bright, but when I go down, it gets darker. That's very creative. So in this view, I'm not noticing too much crazy stuff. What I can see is that I can go straight to the grandfather clock. I can go into this hallway over here, or I can go to the grand hallway. So let's do that. Let's start with the grand hallway over here. There is a coat rack right here. There is some newspapers or some news on the floor. It doesn't really make a lot of sense that they would be lying on the floor. Like, if there's no letterbox outside, like a mailbox, right? And there's no letterbox. So how did this house get mail? Did they open the door to get the mail? If they did open the door to get mail, then why would it be lying on the floor? What is interesting that there's both mail here on the floor, but there's also a newspaper on this chair over here, which is very interesting. I think we have to imagine that there is a letterbox over here that just isn't modeled into the game, but it seems to be, you know, implied, right? This supposedly fell down, right, from the letterbox, but this one must have been picked up and put down on this chair, which is interesting because it means that this newspaper was touched by someone and placed here by someone. So if we click this, it says it's a 2-day-old newspaper. So the game takes place on Tuesday, the 13th of May. This newspaper is 2 days old. So this newspaper is from Sunday. So the report was on Saturday morning. Yeah, so Saturday, report. Sunday, they make this newspaper. And then 2 days later, we, the player, find that newspaper. The children were removed from the asylum. And nurse Isabella Montero. Okay, Isabella Montero and Alexander Graves are arrested. The kids are moved to a nearby hospital. And the police officers have suspended their work because they heard noises and strange voices. We do know from the picture outside that there was another nurse Mana. Where am I getting this name from? Actually, Nurse Mana. There is another nurse, and that nurse has not been arrested. So she could be in the house. She could have been in the house and moved this newspaper. Frightful Murder in the Asylum by Alberto Pugh. This is a fun reference because I believe Alberto Pugh, or called Albert Pugh, I see here, is also credited in the game. So it is someone who helped Gabriel during the development of this game. The inhabitants of the community are more than worried by the mysterious crime that happened in the mental asylum for children that's located outside the city. So the community knows about this crime and is disturbed by it, and we see that the mental asylum for children is located outside the city. Yesterday morning, the police received a report of a 7-year-old girl found carved up in the bath of the institution. So here, yesterday morning, the police received a report. So we know that there was a report made, not just that a police officer was wandering around and stumbled upon this. Someone made a report. And we know that at least as far as of the ground floor, there's not a phone in this asylum. If there was a phone, it would have most likely been in Dr. Graves' office, right? So someone went out of the asylum and made the report. Until now, there are 2 under arrest by being suspected of the crime: the director of the institute, Dr. Alexander F. Graves, and nurse Isabel Montero. both were present at the time of the murder. So Alexander was present at the... Very interesting, because the murder happened in the very early morning at 6:55. So Alexander and Montero were staying the night at the asylum. They were present, they were present at the time. They were in the building. They weren't like right there to intervene with the murder, I believe. It wasn't a time of murder, but the mystery does not finish in the horrible murder. Several police officers that inspected the place assured to have heard noises and strange voices. This motivated to suspend the expert work in the place until next Tuesday, when an inspector will arrive from the capital. This is also very interesting, and that is that, this is a 2-day newspaper. The game takes place on Tuesday, which is very interesting because that's exactly the day the game takes place. We do not know at what time the game takes place. We actually have an idea of at what time the game takes place, because the game takes place right after Ezekiel flees a market. So we do know that the market was open at the time, right before he fled the crime scene. So that makes me believe that the game takes place during the day and not at night.
But if the game takes place during the day, why would Ezekiel say that he would spend the night there? He would only say that as it's about to turn night, as if the sun is setting as he arrives at the place.
Interesting. It's an interesting thing to note that there is an inspector that is coming on the day that we are here at the asylum. Personally, I think it would be very satisfying as we are ending the game and we finish the ritual. The inspector arrives, and that marks the ending of the game, and we end up in a situation very similar to that of Alexander Graves, doing the right thing, but the right thing looking very suspicious and being arrested for it. The director is the main suspect of the bloody crime. Alexander F. Graves arrived at our city 6 years ago and acquired the house of the Roca family to transform it in the present mental asylum for children. Student of medicine and psychology, has numerous diplomas of foreign universities. He will remain under police custody until next Tuesday, when an inspector will arrive from the capital to evaluate his. Now this is super juicy. So we also know that Alexander F. Graves is in police custody till Tuesday, the day the game takes place. The director of the asylum darkened this terrible mystery even more, as when he was being arrested by the local police, he kept yelling and begging them to let him remain in the oh my god, there's a spelling mistake there. Begging him to let him remain in the institution, since he had to finish what he had started. Here, funny Easter egg. Between the most outstanding artists that have confirmed their attendance, we can mention the young man who has demonstrated to be the most promising figure of national pop music, Gabriel from something. Now this is a little Easter egg to Gabriel Rodriguez, the maker of the game, who is also a musician on the side. Kind of fun. I believe in older versions of the newspaper. I'm gonna grab an old version of the newspaper. There's a version that was used before the game was released, which is incredible. This image was used in the first trailer of the game back in 2004, before the game was even released. And I do not have the translation on me right now. But what is fun, what is different is that it mentions that there's 3 murders, and that Dr. Alexander Graves was called Anton Mercer. And here we go. So here, the name of the other nurses mentioned, Corina Mana and Isabel Sara Quienes. Isabel Sara? Just Isabel Sara. So what's interesting is that here it mentions Corina Mana. I'm still going to use that name as we don't have a placeholder, but it is interesting to mention that both Alexander Graves and Isabella Montero have a different name in this newspaper. A lot of interesting information there. So an inspector from the capital will come to evaluate this case. I assume this is a small town where this game takes place, somewhere in Philadelphia. How do we know it's Philadelphia? This letter over here. Moving on to the closed letter. So here we have a letter that is stamped for its destination, Philadelphia. So what we have here is a very mysterious note that doesn't make a lot of sense when you have not, played the rest of the game. But later in the game, it becomes more and more clear that Alexander Graves was working on a ritual using some sort of pentacle. Somehow Alexander can't get in touch with the Archbishop himself, so maybe this is like sort of a middleman, maybe this is his priest. So what we learn from this is, I assume this spell has to be used when performing the ritual, and also what we know is that we need to find 4 elements. What I assume is that one element has already been found and placed on in the pentacle. What is very interesting also is that we just opened that letter. This letter, Alexander did not read this letter. It is possible that this letter arrived after he was arrested. Moving on to, there's a lot of information just in this area over here. We have the newspaper, we have the letter. Then over here, we have what looks like a doctor's coat that is on a coat rack. And when we click on the pocket, we find this. I must finish the ritual. It's the only way. Now this tiny little note, jam-packed with info. So first of all, it confirms a date, right? Even though we don't necessarily need this, but it is fun. It is good that it confirms, the date. That is that she died on Saturday morning at 5 to 6, 5:55. Yeah, this spirit got into the house because of Alexander's actions. I think he already had the ritual room. I think he already had the Ouija board, the book on amulets, and the book on the pentacle. If he didn't, imagine that. So she dies on Saturday. Then, I guess on Saturday itself, he has to go to the shop to buy a book on amulets and pentagrams and an Ouija board. That seems a bit strange to me. Yesterday, I used the board to contact her. Now we get another piece of information, because now we know that she didn't die on Saturday. She actually died on Friday. The timeline is she dies on Friday, May 9th at 5:55. It doesn't exclude that he wasn't present to witness it. But what is confusing about the theory that he witnesses it, was physically there in the room, is that why would he... she told me it happened at dawn at 5 to 6. Why would he mention, maybe, it's possible that Anamara would tell that, but if he was there, he would know when this took place. So what I assume is that Anamara died early in the morning. He wakes up later, goes upstairs to the bathroom, and sees the crime scene. Or he's awoken and he sees the crime scene. What he does then is he locks himself in the office, uses the Ouija board, where Anamara tells her it happened at dawn, 5 to 6. She couldn't defend herself, not without the stone. Yeah, of course, it's the stone of Anamara. In the office, we find a book about talismans and amulets and their protective abilities. I assume the Stone of Anamara is some sort of amulet that has protective qualities that was protecting Anamara from this spirit. Anamara doesn't have the stone and is killed. Remember that Alexander said, "It's my fault"? That doesn't have to refer to him summoning the demon. It could also mean that Alexander took the stone. What if, oh my god, what if the stone is the one element that is already there in the pentacle? Was Alexander working on the pentacle before Anamara was killed? Or did he start working on the pentacle suggested by Anamara?
Alexander was already working on the ritual. Alexander is the only one who has the knowledge of how these rituals are performed. Anamara, a 7-year-old girl who seemingly doesn't have any connection to the occult, it wouldn't make sense for her to suggest something that she doesn't have knowledge of.
It depends on what the purpose of the ritual is. Because it seems like the purpose of the ritual is both to somehow save Anamara. I believe that is freeing her soul. Her soul is right now roaming this asylum, just like the demon whose soul or spirit is roaming this asylum. I think doing the pentacle ritual frees all of these lost spirits into the afterlife. So how this demonic spirit got into the house, I don't know. Was it brought in because of... Did Anamara bring it in as she was admitted into the mental asylum? Maybe. Was it already there when Alexander Graves acquired the house? Maybe. Did Alexander bring it in? Was he cursed? Maybe. Was the Roca family cursed? And did Alexander buy the house because it was a cursed house? Maybe. Who knows? Or did Alexander summon this spirit by accident or on purpose under the impression that it would help him? Maybe. Or did it just wander into the house at one day? Who knows? It's a big question that would answer a lot of things. Where did this demonic spirit come from? Big question. Moving on. I must stop it. It's still here. I must finish the ritual. There's no time. I must stop it. It's still here. He's talking about the demonic spirit. I think maybe more lives are under threat. I mean, the demonic spirit is still there. It could kill another kid, or it could kill him. So he must stop this right now. I must finish the ritual. There's no time. It's the cops. They're coming for me. So this over here implies that the ritual frees the demonic spirit from the house, right? Banishes the demonic spirit. But also down here we have, it's the cops. They are coming for me. Now this is very curious because it implies that Alexander knows the cops are coming for him. He must know that Nurse Mana or Nurse Montero was on their way to town to go to the police office to report the crime. And then the last thing over here is the Ouija board. The thing is that it's so curious that this is in his pocket, right? I mean, I think this is, if I look at it from a game standpoint, it both teases the presence of the Ouija board later in the game, but also it is a tutorial for how to use the Ouija board in the game. What we can see from the design of this is that it's kind of an old card, right? There's like some stains, there's like some rips, there's some creases and crinkles. So it isn't brand new. It isn't just bought, right? Or if it was bought, it's secondhand. But what is interesting is that it's a very simple tutorial. You know, if Graves was more familiar with paganism, why would he need this exactly? Who knows? And why would it be in his pocket? Why isn't it with the Ouija board itself. What about the other notes? Why is this in his pocket? This looks like a journal entry, right? She's dead because of it is dated, right? And it's also part of a notebook, as you can see, of one of those ring binder notepads. They both are from the same ring binder notepad, and I do think there is a good chance that we will find more notes like this. If this is a journal entry, then what is this? Who is this addressed to? Is this just him talking to himself as a journal entry? I must stop it. It's still here. I must finish the ritual. There's no time. If there's no time, why would he take time to make this note? Was this note supposed to be for one of the nurses that were an accomplice to his rituals? This note could be meant for the nurse that helps him with the rituals, who can't be the one who went out to make the arrest, right? Nurse Montero went out of the house to make the report, and Alexander writes this note for Nurse Mana to finish the ritual. If that was the case, I do find it curious that it doesn't say you must finish a ritual and that there's no instructions on it. I want to move on to this painting. Michelangelo, The Creation of Adam, Reproduction. Well, of course, this is a biblical painting, and we just saw that it was the painting got possessed. So the meaning of this painting, you see that God's arm is stretched out fully, and Adam's is kind of limp, suggesting that God is always there for you if you reach out for him. But why is the creation of Adam in this game? Why specifically this painting out of all the paintings? And also, I believe it's cut off, right? So what we see is that both the cherub and God's face get distorted. The colors shift to green and purple. And that Adam's face and hands change. Moving on, we have this little table over here. It's a wooden table, and there is a Holy Bible on top of it, and there is some scrap paper. It looks like it's newspaper clippings. Let's see, there's a key, and there's newspaper clippings. I think it's just, I found another key, wonder which door it goes to. Now, here we have the Holy Bible. The maker indicates the first epistle of the... Fuck. Cool, we're back. Oh, finally I could get in. Guess I will get some sleep here tonight. Yes, you might, or maybe not. Look at this weird carpet. One nice carpet. There's like a flower. The marker indicates the first epistle of the Apostle Saint Paul to Timothy. The marker. It said marker. The marker indicates what Saint Paul said to Timothy. Chapter 4. Now the Spirit speaketh expressively that in the later times some shall depart from the faith. Did Alexander depart from faith? Did Alexander depart from faith, and is he punished by the arrival of the devil into his home? What does it mean, though? Refers to individuals who consistently deceive and engage in hypocrisy to the point that their sense of right and wrong is diminished or extinguished. I knew it. I knew it all along. Dr. Alexander Graves is a liar. He's a fraud. Look in this paper. It says right here. He has numerous diplomas of foreign universities. As in, these are fake diplomas. He is one big sham. But why would a man lie of being a doctor and start a mental asylum for children? Has he abandoned faith and been seduced by devilish doctrine? This over here looks odd, right? There's 2 lines here. This is a hidden door. Hidden room right here. Door right here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Crazy. There's an inscription of the glass. Dr. Alexander F. Graves. Oh, just Alexander Graves, not even F. Graves. Interesting. What's with this circle right here? Who knows? The thing is, we've also tried the idea of what if this circle is the pentacle, right? But as you can see, it's divided into 6 parts, which are divided into 12 parts. There's no way you're dividing that into 5 pentacle points. So I believe the pentacle is just already in there in the ritual room. Because the letters also imply that the pentacle is already there, it's just not finished. And one of the elements is already there. Anamara stone. That's my new theory. I actually believe that Anamara stone is the one element that's already in there. We have the clock here. The clock doesn't work. Now that is curious. Why would the clock not work? Are we stuck in a time loop? There's a cutscene in this hallway. And that is if we set the clock to 5:55, 6:55, 6:55, 6:55. Wait, 6:55. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I'll find out. 6:55. 5 to 6. So 5 to 6 is not 6:55. What does the Spanish translation say? It says 5 to 7. I don't have much to say about here. I mean, there's a scratch here. But I mean, there's scratches all over the walls. This place was not upkept that neatly. This is the door to the kitchen. This is the door to the storage. And then we have the stairs to the upstairs. I don't have much to say here. The key I found doesn't belong to this door. But I do think I learned some interesting things. It taught me that Alexander Graves was present in the building as the murder happened. What I also learned is that I think that the Stone of Anamara was taken by Alexander Graves. So those are kind of big pieces of info. Very useful, good info. Yeah, okay, that's it. Bye.